Hello and welcome back to Internalize the podcast. Um, yeah, welcome back. Uh, right now I'm actually not in town. I'm traveling. So actually, technically not right now. When you will be listening to it, I will probably be traveling. If you listen to it around when it comes out, but yeah. So I'm recording this a couple of days before I leave. Not a couple of days. The day before I leave. I leave tomorrow like early morning. My flight is at 5, which is fun. So yeah, welcome. And yeah, I probably won't be able to see my analytics and stuff, even though I, to be honest, I don't really see it much often anyway. But yeah, welcome to Internalize. So today I want to talk about something like anecdotal that could be of use to people. I want to talk about switching to A levels. So anyone who's unaware, um, I did uh, I did ICSE till the 10th grade, which is the Indian Certificate of Secondary Exams. It's like I don't know if it's a government board. I know it's a government sanctioned board, but it's an Indian. It's the Indian board, and now I've moved to an international board in the form of AS and A levels from Cambridge CIE. So I transitioned to CIE AS and A levels in my 11th and 12th, and honestly, the switch, the process of switching was a lot more. It was a lot tougher than I expected. Honestly, I thought it would be pretty like easy. It would probably take maybe a couple of weeks or so, considering I was a pretty good student in up till this point. And I also expected that the school would support the switch more than they did. But I can't fault them because most people were indeed in IG, which is like the people who are unaware. IGCSE is the it's ninth and 10th from Cambridge, and AS and A levels is 11th and 12th. So most people actually did IG, and for them it would have been more familiar. But yeah, it was optimistic on my part to think that uh, there would be a lot of people switching, so there would be a lot more detailed explanation of how AS and A levels would work. But still, uh, the transition period is honestly the most difficult. It'll be a lot longer and a lot more painful than you expect. But I think once you get a hang of it, which you should by the end of the year, most of the time, uh, like once you get a hang of the syllabus as well as the exam structure, it gets a lot easier. And through this podcast, I hope to um, share some insight that helps, you know, like it's an anecdote to be fair. So it's not, most of it may not be, I mean, it may not be useful at all because it's just an anecdote at the end of the day, but it could perhaps be useful to anyone who's thinking of switching or who's decided to switch to A level from ICSE, maybe to a lesser extent from any other Indian board. So, first up, I want to talk about the similarities between the two because I expected them to be a lot like super different, and they are, but there are some pretty critical similarities between uh, ICSE and ISE and AS and A levels. So, first of all, both of them are really content heavy, but the way that they are content heavy is quite different. ICSE and ISE goes pretty wide, so you have a butt ton of chapters in every subject, and but the chapters are usually not as detailed. But for AS and A levels, often you'll have fewer chapters, but most of the time they are more detailed. But it does depend on the subjects you're taking, of course. It's not a hard and fast rule. I'm not entire as someone who's taken humanities. I think I should have said that before. I took psychology, economics, history, and math. As someone who took these subjects, I don't really have much of an insight into subjects like physics or chemistry. But yeah, it they are of course quite different as both go. As but yeah, anyway, similarities wise, uh, they're both very content heavy, and again, depending on subject, it depends on the type of content heaviness. But I think overall, if you take a macro look at it, AS and AL places a much larger emphasis on reading work than ISC and ICSE. But ICSE and IC place a larger emphasis on mastery over a wide range of topics. So you probably will be more well versed in a single topic in A level, while you probably have a basic understanding at least of a wide variety of topics in ISC and ICSE. Um, Secondly, both place a large emphasis on English, especially if you're studying AS and AL in India, where I think in most places English is a compulsory subject. ICSE and ISC famously, English is a compulsory subject, and it has both literature and language elements. You have literally two exams at the end of 12th, one exam for English literature and one exam for English language. But its syllabus from English varies from school to school in AS and AL. Like some schools take literature and language combined as a subject. Some people take English language only, which is what my school did. Some people will take English language at AS level only over 2 years. You do the 11th syllabus in both 11th and 12th. Some people do the full A level syllabus with because the 12th syllabus is mainly linguistics. It's not truly English language, as at least we've learned it before. But yeah, so yeah, that is a pretty distinct difference, or rather similarity in some sense. English is a pretty it's put in focus here in ICSE, ISC, and ASNAL. Now, differences. Firstly, I want to talk about the syllabus. Both boards, of course, have different parts when it comes to the syllabuses of subjects, and the syllabuses also depend on the subjects you intend on taking. So, let's say history, for example. Of course, in ISC, there's a large emphasis on Indian history, even though world history is present. It's not it's not a significant fraction. It is a significant fraction, but it's not the majority of the syllabus. Um, on the other hand, AS and A level history is world history only, pretty much purely world history. And your teacher will usually choose what topic they want to like teach or what topic you'll study. That I don't really know exactly what the terms are, but I think they're split into Europe, not like Europe, US, or like the rest of world, like world history. Uh, Even psychology as a subject is vastly different. ISC places a large focus on psychological ideas and theories. So you learn concepts of psychology straightforwardly, if that's even a word. Uh, like, for example, you learn a lot about sensory inputs and things like that. Well, you don't really learn that much directly in AS and A levels, at least not at the end of 11th, which is, oh, I haven't experienced 12th just yet. And of course, English is anyway. I At the end of AS level, I forgot to say about psychology. The end of in AS level, at least, it's a case study based syllabus. So you kind of have to uh, you need to learn case studies more than concepts per se, and you have to apply those case studies. And I guess it's more quote unquote technical, if it's the right way of putting it. The greatest difference, I think, for people switching over will be English. In ICSE and ISE, the focus is more on things like formats and specific texts. But here, in AS and A levels, the focus is on text types, uh, things like that. So conventions of text types. And one big thing to note is you have to learn how to analyze, which is quite difficult for someone who is not accustomed to it, who's not taught it from the beginning. It'll take time to get used to analysis, but analysis is a big part of English and AS and A levels. Now, secondly, I want to talk about exams. Um, First of all, before I get into that, is I think it's important to say that even taking A levels in India doesn't really grant you with much of a disadvantage timing wise, because all the most AS and A level exams will take place around the same time as the ISC exams. So you're probably not constrained too much by the timing of the exams. Now, differences. in ISC, you'll have a single board exam at the end of 12th. At least that's how it is right now. I don't know if it's going to change much with the NEP. But so that, along with your projects, is going to dictate your final grade, of course. Now, AS and A levels, on the other hand, there are two exams. There's one at the end of 11th and one at the end of 12th. The 11th is called AS and the 12th is called A2. Now, your final grade will be an average of your AS and A2 portions, and that's your final A level grade. Now, for most subjects, you'll actually have two papers in each exam session, at least. So, you will, let's take psychology, for example. At the end of 11th, I had research and research methods and your normal structured answer type questions. That is paper one and paper two and paper one, respectively. And at the end of 12th, I'll have two more exams, which is paper three and paper four. And it's the same with economics. I had one essay and one MCQ paper at the end of 11th, and I'll have similarly another essay and another MCQ, that is at the end of 12th. So you'll have to write a total of 4 exams over 2 years. Science students will actually have to write 3 exams, I think, for each subject, because you'll have an extra practical. So you'll have MCQ structured and practical as well. So yeah, that is something to keep in mind. The exams are a lot shorter, I think. Most of the time, the exams are around an hour and a half to 2 hours, with English being often longer ones, longer exams. MCQs are really short, only around an hour. But the essay-based exams, especially, are really, really, really like at the longest, not really long, compared to ISC where you have 3 hour exams for everything. Now, what to expect when you switch? As this is kind of a point that has been repeated to uh, would posterity, you have to expect to do poorly in at the start of 11th. Until your midterms, at least, don't expect to like really take off. But uh, know that it's normal. Learning to write essays and stuff is hard. It's For me, it was even difficult to understand what words like analysis, evidence, and sustained judgment meant. And especially if we're doing humanities, expect to do not so great because the structure is just so different. And expect that most people will be better than you because most of them will have come from IG and will have the experience of writing a CIE exam. And they've been taught that from day zero, and you haven't. And make sure to use your calculator to the fullest. That was an initial mistake that I started making, which I rapidly corrected. You can even do quadratics and stuff. It's crazy. Now, so yeah, that is all for this week, I guess. I hope the article was, it's not an article. I hope the podcast was a little helpful for people switching to AS and AL. And good luck with school if you intend on going to AS and AL or even otherwise. School sucks. School is difficult. And that's all. Thanks for listening. And I will see you next week, hopefully, if I'm not like dying, tired.